Hello, everyone. It is me, Allison. Before the episode starts, I want to tell you that the one you're hearing this is a classic. This is from the vault. This is, it's like one of those old masters. I think that's a term in art. Is it Dutch masters? I don't know. All I'm saying is this is a piece of antiquity. It is from 2012. So I recently had Janet Varney on the group show just this past week, and I got some comments like hearing her voice is like a hug, and I felt the same. And it was so nice to have her back on the show. On that episode, I went on record and said that she hadn't been on since 2012. And it's painful to admit that was an untruth. That was a lie. But I didn't know I was lying. Is that any sort of defense? Turns out that she was also on in 2015. I don't know how I neglected. I was going to say I don't know how I neglected to remember that. However, I just leaned outside and called our dog, and he was inside in his little pen. So I am losing it. If I were running for president against someone whose reelection would be disastrous, I realize that depending on what side you're on, you might not know who I'm talking about. I was going to make a dumb joke about like if I were running for president, people would be right now wringing their hands over like, someone should replace her. You know what? I'm not going to get political. Please just vote blue. I'm not going to get political. Anyway, so then I was like, let's play a Janet episode because we're all missing Janet Varney and her voice is like a hug. Which one do I play? And I said, let's just go back to the original old Dutch master, the first one. So that's this episode. I hope you love it. I don't really remember what we talked about, but whatever it is, it's from a snapshot ages ago. A black and white snapshot. Shut up, Allison. You guys, I'm so tired. I love having a puppy. I recently wrote a Substack about how you should get the puppy if you're thinking of it because there's no right time, but he's bringing so much joy to us. But he's also bringing so little sleep to me because I am a hero, a saint, and a princess. Maybe princess is the wrong word here. I'm a hero and a saint. And when he wakes up in the morning, I just pop out of bed and I let Daniel sleep. I don't know why. For some reason, getting up early and I pop out of bed now. But then around now, I begin to lose my fucking mind. Anyway, this episode is supported by Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Summer mocktail smoothies just hit the pool deck at Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Try the Island Punch Smoothie, Mango Berry Cosmos Smoothie, or Watermelon Mojito Smoothie. Order in the app, online, or in cafe. You're on Tropic time now. All right, going to play the episode in a second, but I just want to tell you again, please, if you're not subscribe to my Substack, get over there. I'm officially a bestseller. I have a little check mark by my name. People are loving it. It's really gratifying for me to have so many people saying such nice things about my writing and to be telling a story that it's like, ooh, I get to do the next installment. It's fun. I'm loving the heck out of it. And I hope you'll join me over there, AllisonRosen.substack.com. And of course, patreon.com/AllisonRosen. All sorts of fun stuff on Patreon. You can get episodes of The Friend Zone, my bonus Patreon podcast. Stephanie Wilder-Taylor on the show this week. Well, is it this week? I don't know. Again, I'm confused about time, but she will be on the show shortly, and then that'll be one that I upload shortly. So get that. That's a commitment that I just made to you to get that up soon. And patreon.com/AllisonRosen. Do an annual subscription, get 2 months free. Okay.
Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison Rosen, Allison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone. Hi. Hello. It's me, Allison Rosen, your new best friend, and welcome to Allison Rosen is Your New Best Friend. My guest today is Janet Varney, actress, writer, comedian, producer, those are all correct, yes?
Yeah.
Podcaster. She's the host of the JV Club on the Nerdist Network. Network? Do you guys call it a network?
Yeah, we can call it a network.
Or do you just say on the Nerdist?
I usually say the Nerdist Network, for better or for worse.
Okay.
Till death do us part.
Should have trusted my first instinct.
No, I think you were right on the money.
On the Nerdist Network. And you guys, I was going to ask Gary how he's feeling because, as you know, if you listen to last week's episode, he's a little under the weather. He's sniffly. There's a lot of phlegm happening. But then he stepped away. Oh, but he's back. Gary, how are you feeling?
I'm getting a little better. Thank you very much for asking. I feel better than I did yesterday or for the listeners last week.
I was going to say in podcast time, this is a sickness that has lasted an entire week.
Yeah,
in real time,
3 or 4. But I think I'm getting better. I'm hoping by the next time we record one of these shows, I'll be back to 100%.
Good. He caught Coachella fever, which is where you go to Coachella and then you get sick.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely. No one feel bad for me. I earned this.
Yeah, you did, Gary.
That's a badge of honor. You earned that illness. Because I was too much of a puss to go there because I didn't want to get sick.
Kind of a badge of shame because I feel like an idiot for not planning ahead. But you know what? I earned it. It's not like I got sick from nothing. I had a lot of fun. So
yeah.
So Janet, your podcast focuses on high school. Yes?
More or less, yeah. That's sort of the way into what we end up talking about. It kind of veers off wildly from that, from episode to episode, but it seems like a pretty good way to kind of get to know someone quickly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which makes sense to someone like you, who's also people's new best friends.
Yes. I know. I feel like we're kind of swimming in the same end of the best friend pool.
It's good.
Which is, yeah, it is.
It's good, positive stuff.
The pool has been warmed.
Yeah.
So what intrigues you about how someone was in high school?
Well,
what their experience of high school was like?
Yeah, what we talk about on the podcast a lot. By the way, in my headphones, I'm hearing myself in such a crackly way that I almost feel like I'm broadcasting from a different planet.
That's
I'm
not
very
good.
fuzzy. I'm very, very fuzzy. I'm covered with a sort of a peach fuzz.
Okay, like you've recently hatched, or you've been around.
Like I'm a little baby chick.
Oh, your voice is so cute. Let's talk to Gary about that. Gary, did you hear that?
I did. I'm not hearing it in here, but I'll.
It's kooky. That's all right.
It's
no, it's there. I'm very fuzzy, but I'm trying to make things happen by adjusting my.
I wonder if she were.
This is not fun for anyone to have to listen
try
to
a different set of headphones. Would that maybe?
I just twisted the dial and now it sounds maybe a little bit better.
Oh, good.
Sometimes all it takes is to twist the dial, guys. That's just advice. That's just good
or
old fashioned advice. Or a flick of the button, a flip of the switch, even. I think what we talk about on the podcast a lot is I think what became clear to me when I was sort of thinking about LA and thinking about Hollywood one day and thinking about wanting to do a podcast and not really being sure, like wanting to sort of have a point of view. I thought I think about how many times I've said about my life now, like, oh, it's like high school. It's like, what clique do you belong to, and where do you know how? In what way are you pigeonholed based on what you look like, or how you dress, or who you're dating, or anything like that. And I thought, I just don't even feel like I'm that far away from that girl that I was then. And I had been having conversations with girlfriends of mine about that and kind of asking them, like, is it me, or do I just feel so close. Like, even in my 20s, I almost didn't feel as much like I do now as that sort of 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girl. And they were like, yeah. And so it kind of seemed like a really relatable thing. And I, at that point, knew I kind of I had wanted to really focus in on women, which was also kind of a weird left turn for me because I've
always been into dudes.
Well, yeah, I mean, like total dude right. friends. And I think I had such a weird relationship with my mom when I was little that I had like trust issues with women. I just felt like I got hurt by them and stuff. Mm-hmm. And
were you one of those people who was always like, my best friends are guys?
Yeah, kind of. But I was never. There are too many girls out there right now listening who I grew up with who would be like, are you serious, Varney? But I had as many male friends as I did female, and I was always a really one-on-one friend. I had like because I was an only child, and I think what I understood was like a dynamic of me and a friendship with someone, and that would extend out into groups sometimes. But
You're like, this best friend necklace only has 2 pieces.
I mean, and I didn't have really a best friend for the most part. I just had a lot of friends that I was close to, but there was a lot of heart to hearts. There was a lot of like one-on-one time. But yeah, so I was never like, I didn't dislike women. And I do think that there are women out there who have guy friends who are crappy to women. I was never like that. It would be such a 180 for me to have been that and be what I am now. But I just thought, I don't feel like, kind of being familiar with the podcast world and doing a lot of other people's podcasts, I just felt like there wasn't really anything that kind of was lady-oriented, but also sort of fun and silly and comedic. And so I still love the dudes, but it just felt like there was an opportunity and a little bit of a hole. And I think that turned out to be true based on kind of the feedback that I've gotten from some listeners and stuff.
Does that feel limiting at all, making it so that your guests are only women, though? Like, have you thought, there are guys I wish I could talk to?
I think yes, but I'm so at the beginning of this, and my list of women that I am excited to have on the show or that I would want to pursue is so long that I could go for like 3 years without even being that distracted by the guys that I would want to interview, which I totally would. And I think that a guy's kind of experience in high school and sort of how it shaped him and how he becomes an adult and how that relates is just as valid and just as interesting. So I would love to. But for now, I might as well just keep doing what I'm doing.
I do feel like there's a dearth of women's voices in the podcasting world.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know. I was talking to Ricky Lindholm, and she also has a podcast, and we were talking about just how few podcasts hosted by women there are. I mean, they are out there, but it's not, I don't know. Like, what would you guess the ratio is? 1 to 10?
I don't know, but yeah, I would say 1 to 10 is probably pretty safe. It might even be worse than that, at least in our kind of community of people. I was super excited when you asked me to do it, and you beat me to it because I was like, I'm asking Allison Rosen.
Oh, yay!
And I was so excited, and we're definitely going to do a flip flop where you come on mine. So, but yeah, I just and I love Ricky's podcast. But yeah, there's really. They're just not that much. I think there's just a different flavor that's brought, and there's a really different flavor, much to the annoyance of some guys who don't enjoy my podcast. It really changes gears when it is just always 2 women yakking at each other. But I think it's good. It's sort of fun. It fulfills a part of my life that nothing else has up to this point, which is kind of neat.
Well, speaking of women, now we're going to bring a guy on to do a segment called Things You Never Hear People Say. So we're shifting gears slightly, but then I want to come back and talk more about everything that you just talked about because, like, a whole bunch of areas of my brain just lit up.
Oh,
so I was like, yes, I feel that way too.
Good.
Okay, so Things You Never Hear People Say.
Things you never hear people say when you pass them on your way. As you go throughout the day, these are things you never hear people say.
Alfred Schultz.
Speaking of women,
Hello.
Alfred Schultz.
Ooh, that would have been a better segue. Speaking of women, Alfred Schultz.
So I got that way too much. How you guys doing?
Good.
Hi,
How are
Alfred.
you doing?
I'm great.
So-
Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming on again. You're a crowd favorite. You're a crowd pleaser. Everyone loves you.
Because my mom listens.
Oh, Debbie. That's her name, right?
Debs, yes.
Debs, yeah. Every time I mention your mom's name, it's Debbie. That's her name, right? I always follow it with that. I'm very unsure. So what do you have for us this week, Alfred?
All right, 5 more mediocre things you never hear people say.
Way to sell it.
First one is, I hate Tom Petty. Never heard anyone say that. Next one, I don't like the dog, but I love the doggy breath. We need more Garfield movies. I love the sound of my alarm clock. And last one, my favorite Kardashian is Robert.
You don't ever hear anyone say that.
You don't.
So
He's dead. But if he was alive, I think he'd be everyone's favorite.
yeah.
I wonder if anyone's thinking that stuff but not saying it out loud.
I'm constantly thinking about it.
Are you constantly wishing there were more Garfield movies?
Always.
Yeah.
I think they're just delightful.
You know,
Good for the kids and the parents.
I don't think I hate Tom Petty, but I don't love Tom Petty.
I've heard people say
Well, I
they
think
hate Tom Petty.
I don't really love
He's
Tom
off.
Petty either, but no one taking time out of their day to hate like a Tom Petty song.
Maybe you just hang out with people who are more good-natured than I do. I'm pretty like feel like someone could hate Tom Petty.
Maybe the person, but really, like, what Tom Petty song is worthy of hatred?
You know that one with the kind of lazy singing style?
Uh-oh.
That one?
Anyone.
Oh, wow.
I don't get that
I'll
excited
have to
about
delete that
Mary
one from my list.
Jane. Shouldn't say I really like Tom Petty. I like and very much respect Tom Petty. But that song, Mary Jane, I don't care for it.
Would it make you say
Okay.
I hate Tom Petty? Alfred's
it
mind
wouldn't.
is getting blown right now.
Yeah.
I guess that one didn't work.
That
Wow.
refrain of,
I feel very
oh,
defeated right now.
mama, oh, hell yes.
Yeah.
It just sticks in my craw in a way I don't care for.
Right. Yeah.
But you throw on some Don't Come Around Here No More, I'm never going to turn that down. I'm going to turn
I
it
will
up.
throw that on.
All right. Well, I don't want to say you failed, Alfred. I'm gonna
I think you
give
kinda do
you.
want to say that.
I'm gonna give you an A-. I'm gonna start grading
All right,
everyone and
all right.
everything because I feel like it's a very kind-hearted thing to do.
That's a good idea.
Well, thank you, Alfred.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate the A-. Usually when I failed or came close to failing, I got more of like an F or a D in school.
I'm going to get an. Can we
appreciate
give a
mine.
special A+ to I don't like the dog, but I like the doggy breath?
Sure, we could. Yeah, we can grade them individually.
That I really liked.
So you're coming out with an A, basically. You can feel good about
Awesome.
that.
I'll
Tell
take it.
Debs.
That's her name, right,
I'll
Debbie?
take it.
Yeah.
4.0.
All right. Well, thanks, Alfred. We'll be talking to you next
Thanks, guys.
week. Bye.
Awesome. Cool. Can't wait. All right. See ya.
Bye. I was tempted to ask him what he was like in high school, but I know that he had a speech impediment. And no, it's not really an speech impediment. It's more of a, we could laugh about it, I think, but maybe that's just because his brother always laughs about it and tells stories that make me laugh, and it's actually mean. I don't know. But I know that if Alfred laughs about it as well.
Okay.
So I know that if we were to talk about it, then it would result in me wanting to make him kind of do the speech impediment.
Right.
He's not my dancing monkey.
Yeah, it's not fun to have to say to someone like, do that voice, or be told, do that voice.
Yeah. He's only my dancing monkey in terms of he'll do things you never hear people say.
Yeah.
On command.
I like that.
Okay, so here's what I was thinking. I was thinking that when I was in college, I think I felt farther away from high school than I do now.
Right?
Like, what is it about the real world that is so much like high school? And is it that all of a sudden we're like without a game plan, or there's like so much less structure? Well, but high school had a lot of structure. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think I like your point about college, and I think that in college, I'm just speaking for myself, I was so stimulated by how different my life became when I
Yeah.
went off to college that's kind of what I was aware of and what I was thinking about. And it was about celebrating the changes from leaving home and from graduating high school. And I'm sure for those people who who skipped college and just went out into the quote unquote real world and got jobs, they would probably say the same. It's so wildly different. And I think you spend a lot of time after college, even kind of, then your life changes again. If you did go to college, it changes again when you leave college, and you're kind of adapting to that new world and figuring stuff out. And maybe it's not until your 30s, by the way, have given this question no thought, because it's a great question. I never thought about it quite this way before. But maybe by the time you're in your 30s, you sort of have a chance to like sit back a little bit and sort of look around, and maybe it falls into a pattern that feels familiar in a way that it did when you were a teenager. Like you're kind of settled into your life.
Right.
And so these small things or these consistencies kind of flash at you in a different way, and you can analyze them in a different way. I don't really know.
Because I was trying to figure out why did I was listening for the second time to your episode of Paul Gilmartin's Mental Illness Happy Hour. That's the first. I'm trying to remember if I knew about you and through you I discovered his podcast, or if I discovered you on his podcast. And I can't remember, but the first episode of that I ever listened to was you on there, and I just thought it was such a great episode, and I loved everything that you shared, and I loved his take on everything. And while I was listening to it, though, I know that for you, college was like a kind of unhappy time.
Yeah, it was
right?
pretty bad. I mean, it was really amazing for some reasons, but so that's when I started having horrible anxiety and panic and stuff. So
Yeah.
that made it really hard.
And I want to talk about that. But but what I'm going to say is now going to sound super insensitive juxtaposed to that. But for me...
Well, listen, I worked with Paul Gilmartin for 7 years, so nothing you say can sound insensitive. That's a shout out to him.
Wait,
Bastard.
does he say insensitive things all the time?
Oh my God, totally. In the best way. Like, he absolutely unintentionally says things that are super insensitive and then has to be told they were insensitive and then is like incredibly chagrined because he has a heart of gold. But so it's a joke with us, like the people that worked on that show with him, where he would just say
that was
something
dinner and a
bullheaded.
movie, right?
Yeah,
that's so funny. That's like the other side of him that he alludes. Like I feel like there's people on there. There's so many podcast personalities that allude to these like sides of themselves that you don't really hear on the podcast, but you just know they like Mark Maron is one where I feel like it's he was this crazy asshole evidently years ago, but he doesn't come across that way. Yeah. And Paul Gilmartin comes across as so soft and gentle and nice. So that's interesting to know that he's got this
he's soft.
insensitive
he's
side.
soft, but sometimes he just doesn't. He's just sometimes he checks out and just something comes out of his mouth and he didn't realize.
Oh
God, I love that man so much.
Me
I'm
too.
so glad
I don't
he
know
has
him
that
well,
side
but
of him.
yeah.
He would love you. I'm sure he would love for you to do the podcast.
Oh, I did do it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, we've been in love ever since.
See?
But just not the same depth of love that you have with him as someone who actually knows him well.
Yeah,
I only know him in a little bit.
Yeah, when you work, because we shot in Atlanta, so we were together like on the flight there, and then the whole time we would be there, and we traveled a lot actually for that show. So we know that we travel together well. So we could almost be married, but he's got a wonderful wife.
That bitch. So for me, college, I really think may have been, I don't want to say the best 4 years of my life simply because when someone describes something in the past as the best 4 years of their life, I think, oh, you're a sad kind of person.
Right. You're supposed
but it
to,
really, because it's supposed to just always be getting better. But it really was a phase of my life or a chunk of time that I look back really fondly on, and I just loved it. And I was thinking, why though? What was it about that time that was so great? And I think for me, college was the first time that I experienced the world like this. All these things that I had hoped could be true are coming true. This is
great.
What I always believed was possible, but had never truly experienced before in this really reassuring way. Because I grew up in Orange County, California, which is also where Gary grew up. And it's a very homogenous kind of, it can be homogenous and shallow. And I never felt like I fit in. And I always felt like weird sort of just, the things that I valued were not what people in Orange County valued. And all of a sudden here I was in college and I was around people that were funny and they were smart and they liked me and I got along with them.
Yeah.
And I was sort of being rewarded for the things that I had always valued, like, intelligence and being thoughtful and analytical and all that. And then it's just been downhill ever since. I mean, not really.
Well, you know what? A lot of people... Oh, Gary,
I'm
please.
sorry. That's very well said. That sounds a lot like how I felt leaving Orange County and getting into college.
Yeah.
I think that's the real... I mean, I've talked to a lot of women on my podcast who had that experience too, who just really felt like a little bit of a purgatory situation in high school because that was so localized to where they were. And if you weren't in a community of people that really, reflected back your values or what made you excited or what you were interested in artistically or anything like that, it can be very oppressive. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to a lot of people who feel like college was really when they came into their own and got to not just be who they were, because they were in high school, but express who they were in a totally different way and be
and
stimulated.
Connect with people as that person.
Absolutely. I know we're in the middle of talking about this, but once we started thinking about high school, I immediately flashed to what you said right before the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I'm losing my mind over this a little bit.
No, okay, so we should,
in a great way.
We should talk about this. So I said to you that I think that my boyfriend went to the same high school as you did.
Which immediately I was already like, what?
and he had your dad as one of his teachers.
Again, what?
And then I said his name, and then you...
And his first name, by the way, is very... regular. It's not like his first name was like Sterling or something where there could only be one.
God, I kind of wish it were, though.
And I don't remember ever knowing his last name.
Okay.
So the fact that...
His name is Daniel or Dan.
His name is Dan. So the fact that based only on me knowing his name was Dan and that it's Allison's boyfriend, who I don't, by the way, know very well, just based on that and the fact that and then he told me, then she told me how old he was. Within all of that, and I went to a very large high school, I immediately guessed right on the first guess. of who it was.
How though?
I don't know. That's what's weird about it, is
Yeah.
because you
there's
said
probably a lot
that,
of
and I
Dans
thought,
in
okay,
that
he was a
school.
senior, and I thought, all right, the only one that springs to mind is this guy that was friends with this guy I had a huge crush on, and they were like inseparable, and their names were Dan and Matt. And I said, did he have a great friend named Matt? And you said yes,
Yes.
and I just lost my mind because I had such a crush on his friend when I guess I was a freshman or a sophomore when he was a senior. And it was that whole thing where I didn't do this with that many people. But my crush on him was such that I would like, I kind of got a sense of where he would be in the hallways and like would try to walk that way so that I would see
Right.
him. And I was a total Weisenheimer, so I wasn't really shy in the conventional sense. But I think he had a girlfriend, and I just wasn't, and I wouldn't have ever stepped over that line anyway. So I just sort of
I feel like that's how everyone is. I don't know anyone in high school that's like, I'm going to not have a crush on this person because they're with someone else. Like, that's
Right.
just standard,
Right.
you know?
But I feel like she didn't go to the same school or something.
really?
Either, so she's like a mystery person. But I adored him, and I knew he was funny because somehow I knew. I guess maybe through my dad. That's so weird because my dad
Your dad was an English
loved
teacher?
them.
Is that right? Okay.
He was an English teacher. And I know that he loved them. And so I had a relationship to them to the point where, yes, please tell Dan if he doesn't listen to this. I 100% remember him. I have a complete picture of him in my mind. They were both like wiseacres. And I really appreciated that because there weren't that many like clever, sarcastic, dry people that I can remember at that school. And they totally were.
So I'm gonna
that's
need to
insane.
hear more about this crush on Matt. How did you know him? Just
I knew I must have known him through. I mean, we didn't have any classes together. Obviously, he was older. It could be as simple as maybe I just knew him from the hallway. But I did know for sure that my dad really liked the two of them, and I do think of them as always being together. Like I don't have any association with
Right.
the two of them ever being apart. I think they might have been on the yearbook committee or something. I have a
That sounds
yearbook.
like something
I'm
they
not
may have
kidding you. I have a yearbook that I think it was the year he graduated. When I got that yearbook, I mean, I did that thing where I like every single picture of him that there was. I drew my version of it. Wouldn't have been like a heart around it because I just wasn't that. I was a weirdo. So my version of it being weird was like I would write little weird notes to him or comment on what he was wearing, like I was teasing him or something. But it was
In your
all
own
just
yearbook.
for me. Yeah, it was all just for me. And maybe a friend of mine who knew that I had a crush on him. And I mean, but like when you think about, that's really the only time you get to do that without someone thinking you're completely psychotic. Like I could never have a relationship to someone else now the way I had with Matt, where I was essentially stalking him
right.
in a
Yeah.
very creepy way.
No, I know. I mean, I remember telling a friend of mine that I had met this guy at a party and I had a crush on him, and I think I was 16. And she's like, "Oh, we should drive by his house." I was like, "Yeah, okay." I mean, that never seems like a good idea
It's never a good idea.
when you get to a certain age. But the crazy thing is that at 16, that it seems like a good idea.
Yeah,
not
and just
really
the feeling,
insane.
That feeling that you get, like your heart starts racing
Yeah.
as you're getting ready to. I don't have those feelings much anymore,
No.
and I really miss those.
Oh, Gary has his hand
Oh,
up.
Gare.
Okay. Just for the male listeners, what's the best case scenario in the let's go drive by his house? Like what is the
That
best
she's
you
not
can hope
actually crazy. She's just acting crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
what's,
you mean
what's the
for?
outcome?
Like if
It's-
your friend's
it's-
like let's go drive by your house and you're like, "Yeah, let's do that." What's the best case scenario
but
in your
you're
mind?
so right. It's not about an outcome. It's not about like, oh, he'll see me and then he'll come out and ask me out on a date. It's about the rush of sharing the secret with the girlfriend.
Yeah, it's almost more. Yeah, it's almost more
It's
about
about
delighting
that.
in the crush with your
Yeah,
female
it's
friend.
about that relationship more than
Yeah.
it is about your crush, I think.
Okay.
There was
asked.
definitely a guy that I rode my bike past his house all the time.
Did he see you?
Josh Zintarski, you know who you are. I don't know if he did, but I probably wanted him to.
Because I would do stuff like somehow I'd find out that some guy I like is going. I used to go see live bands all the time. Is going to some concert, and then I would like move heaven and earth to somehow also go to that concert, even if I didn't like the band. And I'm sure it was very obvious, like very, very obvious
But
what
I
was
don't know,
doing.
maybe it was obvious to girls, but Gare, I mean, aren't guys kind of oblivious to stuff like that in ways that girls would never expect them to be? Like, you
Yes.
didn't know I liked you?
Yes,
See?
absolutely.
So maybe it wasn't. It might have been obvious to another girl, but maybe not to you.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. We've talked about this on the show before, this whole idea of if you like someone and you're young, should you tell them? Because my general feeling is when you tell someone, they usually already know, I think. But then I've caught some pushback on that because Gary and James Gunn, who was the guest on that episode, feel like, no, oftentimes women don't know.
Well, yeah, I think there was...
Or men don't know.
Yeah, there's double-edged sword. I mean, James and I were talking about... We were giving advice to a 15-year-old kid who had called in, and we were saying... Well, James was saying, rather, and I said later, I thought this was good advice, that there's really not much to lose besides the embarrassment in that moment.
Yeah,
and
like
that,
except your best friend who's the girl.
Well, yeah, maybe, but his point was
happened
that
a few times.
in order to get a hit, you have to strike out a few times. You know,
I think it's like he's like, if you want to be the kind of guy who dates a lot of women, then you have to get over this idea that it matters what their response to your overture is.
Right.
Because
And I don't necessarily know that I agree with your assertion that when you tell somebody you like them, they already knew, because it's happened to me more than once that I was told, not directly, but like third party, like, hey, she's into you. And I was like, really? How about that? Like, no, because I'm stupid. I don't know. Most guys are. We're oblivious.
I
Like,
wonder if Matt knew about my crush on him.
I don't know. I'll ask Daniel.
Please ask Dan.
I will.
ASAP.
I guess I'm thinking. See, Gary, I feel like that's sort of a slightly different situation, because if someone tells you that someone has a crush on you, then that might be sort of earlier in the whole crush progression than when
Someone
the
who's
person
giving, like, puppy dog eyes.
Yeah. Like then when the person decides themselves that they have to tell you because they just can't go on living this way anymore without any closure. I feel like usually at that point it was pretty obvious.
No,
Maybe not.
No, I totally hear what you're saying. I was more speaking to the idea of guys being stupid.
No, you
and
weren't.
saying that we are. we are dumb
Right.
and oblivious.
Yeah.
So I guess I take issue with the thought that even if it in your head is like, I have to tell them or I can't go on living, that the idea that they probably already know, not necessarily.
Okay. All right.
Interesting.
Maybe not. But back to that idea of never really experiencing crushes like we did in high school, like as strong. And it's
Yeah.
like, because I feel like just having the crush, not having anything to do with the person, but just having the crush in and of yourself was satisfying enough at the beginning.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes,
it almost
I
like I'm
agree.
almost talking about sort of that phase right when you start having crushes on people in real life as opposed to people in movies.
Right. Which also continue on. I mean, I think some of us, like, maybe you don't have crushes in quite the same way with real people, but, like, sometimes movie stuff continues on, which is very nice because it's a fun release for that energy, I guess.
Yeah.
But that just, then it totally... Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's... I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, I think especially at that age... the less you know about someone, the better, for
Right.
sure, because then it is this sort of nebulous, cursory knowledge of someone, and you can just build them out to be whoever you want them to be. If
Yeah.
you even go that far in your
Right.
mind, you might just be enjoying the flush of excitement you get when you see them or whatever. But
Yeah.
there's that, like, it's definitely doesn't. It's the idea of a crush kind of separates from their core humanity pretty early on. Like, I was
Yeah.
always really surprised if a guy friend of mine said after we'd been friends for a while, like, I really like you. Like, I would like to take this to the next level. I would always think, I'm not saying always, like, that always happened to me. But I would think, God, you're a better person than I am, because if I had seen the sides of me that you have, I would have lost interest in you as anything other than a friend. I would have lost interest in me. Like, I wasn't doing the kind of, tap dancing and
Right.
like putting on a show and trying to be pretty or trying
Isn't
to
that
be funny.
Then when
to
someone
a
still
friend.
likes you, even when
yeah,
you've just
and then
been
you're
yourself.
like, oh, really? I don't know. I thought,
Yeah. See, if it were me, then I probably would have jumped to, oh, they just like their idea of me. They don't really like me, because if they had really seen me, then they wouldn't like me. So the fact that they think they've seen me, but they still like... See,
I
just
totally
would have
get
gone
that.
down that
I
sort of
totally get
spiral
that,
of
and it is
insanity.
amazing how, and I think guys are like this too. I think humans are like this if they're sensitive people. how quickly we find ways to punish ourselves even when someone's complimenting us. Like, that's a broader issue of like, oh, you can't possibly be that into me because now I have further to fall, which I will fall off this pedestal because I'm a horrible person and you just haven't figured it out yet.
Right. And almost an anger at someone for insisting that you're better than you think you are. And
I totally get that.
My belief about that is just that, and by my belief, I mean probably my therapist's belief, although I'm not currently in therapy anymore, but back when I sort of rebuilt myself because things just weren't working the old way.
Interesting. I'm intrigued. Maybe we should save that for my podcast.
I think my belief about that is that it just has to do so much with how you feel about yourself. And if this sounds so hokey, but like if you don't love yourself, then if someone else tries to love you, it's going to feel false.
I totally agree.
So
I totally agree. That's unfortunately the hokey stuff ends up being really true sometimes. So, much to the chagrin of those of us in the comedy world who like kind of shitting on everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I love that the description of your podcast is, you say like warning contains sincerity.
Yeah. I felt like I had to put that out there because I knew I love doing other people's podcasts, and some of my favorite things to listen to and watch are completely ironic or just snarky or whatever, but I just felt like I sort of wanted to, in my own snarky way, acknowledge that there's like real touchy-feely stuff going on the podcast, which there definitely is, but hopefully it's not so, in your face that it's like disgusting.
So it's not. I love it. So what were you like in high school?
I was I for the second half of high school, I was sort of more just kooky in terms of like how I behaved and how I looked. But the listeners to my podcast know that when I was in 8th grade, I was like pretty square, and then I went to a Mormon girls' camp. My mom had really wanted me to go, and I always felt like I disappointed
Were you raised Mormon?
her. She's Mormon, but my dad's an atheist, and my dad really had, like, he reared me, but my mom had shared custody, and I would have to go to church with her on Sundays, and I just always felt like I don't know, I just felt it was my own stuff. But I just felt like a terrible daughter most of the time to her, and a great daughter to my dad. It was like when they divorced, it was like I took his side, I guess, and then I never really forgave myself for that later. But so I ended up going to this camp, even though I was always the one who was like, "Hey, you guys believe my dad's going to hell because he's not,
Right.
But there I was, and I just fell head over heels platonically in love with this girl at this camp who. I mean, this is such a long story, and it's but it's one of the most interesting things about my high school experience because it was so intense. We were sitting around the campfire, and I was a year younger than she was, so I was in like a different cabin with a different group of girls. We didn't go to the same ward, which is a whole thing about Mormon church, the way it's organized. But
is a ward
is like a parish or whatever. It's like they base it on where you live, so it's like where you would go to school, kind of the same thing. And so this girl didn't live anywhere near me, so I'd never seen her before in my life. And everybody had to do a skit the first night of camp. Each group had to do a skit, and so we did our stupid little skit. I'm sure I was like pushing too far, trying to make it too funny and too edgy, and then. These other girls come out and they're doing this skit, and there's a girl who has like dyed black hair and like just a sort of a weird Cleopatra bob, and she had like she might have even had dark lipstick on, like really dark. I mean, for a girls' camp in the middle of the mountains that was Mormon based,
right.
This girl was out of this world, and she was missing part of her finger. If she ever hears this, I hope she doesn't mind that I'm telling this story. And she was like incorporating that into sketches in this dark, amazing way. And I don't know. I've never fallen in love with anyone at first sight, platonic or otherwise, except for this girl. I was done. I was like, I don't know who this is, but I'm exploding. And I couldn't wait to meet her. I mean, I was a total little boy. I just like went up to her and I was like, "Hey, I'm Janet. Oh God, I thought that was really funny." I fanned out on her, and we just, I mean, within like 5 minutes, we were inseparable. I would sneak out of my cabin to sleep in her cabin with her because I was so in love with her. And it was like the most intense week of my life, and we got really close. And she was really into like The Cure and Depeche Mode, and I just completely changed everything about myself. I started dyeing my hair orange. I started wearing black lipstick. I started wearing like dog chains on my neck and on my wrists and stuff. And we started doing drugs and
What
going
drugs
out.
were you doing?
I started doing LSD.
Wow,
it was
in 8th grade?
crazy. Ninth grade, but I was 13. I was 13.
Oh, right, because you skipped kindergarten.
Yeah. You remember from
I just
Paul
remembered.
Gilmartin's podcast.
Right.
And so I would not recommend that to any young listeners.
LSD or skipping kindergarten?
Skipping kindergarten, neither. They're both really important to. The skipping kindergarten was fine. She said humorously, and then, but yeah, taking those drugs really young. I don't really know what I did to myself, but it wasn't good. So the first couple of years of high school, probably into my junior year, maybe, I was sort of that girl, and then I kind of just. I guess I grew out of that, and we sort of had a falling out, which I feel terrible about. And then my friend circle kind of opened out a little bit, and then I was just kind of a weirdo. Like I stole clothes from the drama department, which my drama teacher, unbeknownst to me, had donated some of his clothes into. So one day I came to drama wearing like a 70s man's shirt. It was like a green polka dotted shirt with a really wide 70s collar. And my drama teacher said, "That shirt looks really good on you." And I knew I had stolen it from the drama department, but I just looked at him square in the eye like a badass and was like, "Thanks." And he goes, "It looks a lot better on you than it did on me."
Ooh, he was ready for this one. He had his comeback ready.
So, yeah.
The funny thing is that as you're telling that story, I'm watching your body language, and you're kind of cringing, like, you can't believe that you stole clothes from the drama department.
Yeah.
And maybe I just have no moral compass. I mean, not that I think it's a good idea, but I feel like perhaps you're flagellating yourself more than necessary.
Well, I
that
appreciate
one.
that. Yeah, I
thought the
appreciate
same
that.
thing.
That's
Okay.
very nice. I think the general amount of stealing that I did, never from a person, never, ever, ever from
That
a
is a
friend
phase
or a
people go
family,
through,
nothing
though.
like that. But I definitely was like hooked on shoplifting for a while, stealing things I didn't need, I didn't want. You know what I mean? Just for
Right.
the rush. That was sort of part of that rebellious time.
Isn't that a phase that most young
think
teenage
so.
girls go through? I mean,
I
I
think
sort
so.
of flirted with it a tiny bit,
Yeah.
but I was too much of a dork to really stick
I
with
was
it.
real reckless. I wasn't doing it in like department stores where there were cameras.
There
But
was
that's
always that girl that got caught stealing a bikini.
Yeah, I was, and I never. Oh God, you cannot find me in a bathing suit my entire life. So never.
It would be
I would never have
underclothes.
stolen a bikini. Yeah, but yeah, and I feel bad because even though I didn't steal from, I pretend like I'm saying, oh, I didn't steal from a person. I mean, I was stealing from like little secondhand shops and stuff. Like it was their livelihood, and I was stealing from them. So I feel terrible about that.
Did you ever get caught or get in trouble or anything?
I got apprehended and released. Like I was
stealing?
not booked. Yeah, I was not booked. I was so ashamed of myself and I was crying so hard. It was at a drugstore. And I think I had seriously stolen like a chapstick. Once again, not stealing because you need anything, not
Right.
stealing anything you
Your
really
lips weren't
want.
extra
It was
dry?
it was just like, I guess I'll take this. It's kind of a boring afternoon. I guess I'll steal some, whatever. And I was I was devastated. And they called the cops. It was like a Walgreens or something. And they called the cops, and the cops came. And by the time my dad came, I was crying so hard. I'm sure they
Mr.
were like,
Varney,
she's
the
going to
atheist.
pass out. Yeah. If we don't just like give her a pass. But I
Right.
definitely was grounded and stuff.
And what was your mom's reaction to you coming home from Mormon camp with this new personality?
To be honest with you, I think it was just par for the course to her because I was kind of a bad seed with her. But my dad was he had such a strong belief in me that even when I was doing that, he was like, I know she's still a good kid. I know she's still smart. He just didn't worry about it as much. Whereas my mom was like going through my purse to try to find cigarettes or any evidence that she could that I was
Right.
doing something wrong.
And why did you and your goth friend have a falling out?
Well, she was getting ready to graduate, and I think here's the simple answer. I think the simple answer is, and I was just talking about this with someone who had a similar friendship. It's that passion and that fierceness and that excitement of having that friend who you're inseparable with, and for a long time, we wanted to be the same person. We just wanted to have everything in common. We loved the idea that it was like, take one or the other of us, we're the same. And we just loved that. And I think at a certain point, I started to get really, I can't speak for her, but I started to have an identity crisis. And I started to feel like, well, I want to be special, and I don't want someone to think that I'm just like someone else. And I don't want a boy to think that going out with her is the same as going out with me or something like that. And so I think I really had growing pains, and I just kind of like got scared and didn't know how to organically have that conversation or how to organically pull away. And I think I really hurt her because I just kind of disappeared on her without being able to say, I'm not comfortable with this dynamic anymore.
Have you talked to her since, or do you ever look her up on
we're,
Facebook?
We're
or
in
anything?
touch a little bit. I just sent her a little email for her birthday. And we've seen each other since, but not for a long time after that. And it was so passionate, honestly. And she is a certifiable genius. I mean, she's one of the smartest people I've ever known or ever will know. That it just wasn't like, oh, we were really close and then we broke it off.
Right.
It was like she wrote me a letter when I had sent, I think I tried to make amends months later after I had kind of dissed her, I guess. And I think I sent her some flowers. I gave her some flowers or something. And she wrote me a letter that is one of the most painful letters I've ever received and I've read it very recently. Like I read it a couple months ago because I was thinking about her for her birthday. And I read it and it was like the most articulate letter where someone basically accuses you of being a horrible person that I was like, God, she was so smart even then. There was no an adult woman who was a professional writer could have written that letter,
Right.
you know?
And you kept it.
I kept it, yeah. I kept a few letters. I only have like one box of letters from people, but I have friends who keep everything, and now I kind of wish I were better about it. Mm-hmm. Do you keep stuff? Do you hold on to stuff?
I do. Gary and I were just talking about this yesterday, but it's both because I am sentimental and because I'm really disorganized and can't make up my mind and can't let go of things. So it's less like I have a box of mementos than like everything could be a memento or it could be trash. I don't know. I find that I tend to sort of sift through stuff when I move, when I'm forced to. And then I usually end up getting rid of things that I wish I hadn't, and I keep stuff. And I always, when I move, there's at least one box that's just full of papers and crap because I look at it and I'm like, I don't want to go through that right now. Yeah. And I don't know what that is. If I were to psychoanalyze myself, which I spend a lot of time doing, I would say that it's probably that I just don't want to have to face all that stuff.
I get that.
And I don't know.
It takes
Are
me
you
a
organized?
long time. I'm pretty organized, but it takes me a long time to sort of go through files of things and and I do think I probably have more even than I need because there is a little bit of that I don't want to sort through all this. But both my parents are just not, they're kind of purgers in that way. I have I actually have an idea for now I'm just saying it online, but guys, don't do my sketch, okay? But I just I think it would be really funny to have a version of hoarders that's purgers. Like you can't stand to hold on to anything.
Yeah,
because that's a little
like you're
bit
throwing out food as you're eating it.
Exactly. And then you just gradually dismantle your own body because you're like, I don't need this.
That's that is the opposite of the house I grew up in.
Yeah, and that's how my parents are. I mean, my dad.
Are they running
my parents,
from something or just very tidy?
They're basically in the same place, but they keep a small space and they don't like a lot of clutter. And so as soon as I moved out of my dad's house, he turned my bedroom into something else. There was no sentimentality. He's a very sentimental man and very emotional. But in terms of the representation of me in a space, he has tons of pictures of me everywhere to the point of embarrassment. But he immediately okay, and now I know what to do with this space. With this use of this space is going to be my room, and now this will be this room, and this will be this room. And he gave me a bunch of little by little, he's just kind of unloaded all the stuff on me that he kept for sentimental reasons that I made or wrote, anything like that. And then I would be like, well, if my dad doesn't care about it, I don't care about it. And so I would toss it, So, and I was just talking to Jessica St. Clair on a recent podcast. We were talking about the idea of, keeping those mixtapes. She kept all of the mixtapes that boys would make for her and her friends would have. So she still has.
What does she play them on, though?
Those. Yes, that's a great question. Maybe she just looks at them and caresses them. But when people would make take all that time to make you your own cover, it was personalized, and thoughtfulness of the mixes and stuff. I just don't have anything like that left.
Yeah. I'm trying to there's a few things that I know exist somewhere, like lists that I made or just drawings or things like that. And it's funny, I have so much crap, and yet there are those few things that I really wish that I still had. And I think part of why I keep so much crap is that the feeling of wishing I had something that I don't have at times
Keeps you
has
holding
been so
on to the other
yeah.
stuff. I get that.
And like, here's sort of a ridiculous example of that. I remember going away on an overnight trip, and there was a shirt. It was like this oversized purple satin blouse, because this is a long time ago.
I am sold.
And
Done.
I was at the hotel, and I really wanted to put on my purple shirt with my black leggings and my giant barrette and my giant earrings. And I looked in my, duffel bag, and I hadn't brought it with me. And I was like, I thought I brought that. I guess I didn't, And I was so upset that I didn't have it that ever since then, I was like, I'm always going to bring extra stuff. Which is
so
such
I
a
never
stupid
have to
way
feel
to live.
that sorrow
Yeah.
and lacking ever again.
I guess.
You said that you kept drawings. Did you draw? Do you visually?
Oh,
do
I mean-
or doodles.
I think they were more doodles. Yeah. I mean, I did do some art, but that was never, I was a writer. I mean, that was more my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I went through phases where I did sketches and things like that, but I was never super
I wasn't
into
either.
it.
I was
You
terrible
weren't?
at it.
I
felt like I was.
thought I heard that you do like installations and things.
Well, that's a thing I discovered about myself literally 2 years ago. Like I just didn't. I've always liked making stuff with my hands, but more on the crafty side. And I had never like drawn or painted. And I was with a guy for 5 years before I was with Chris. His name was also Chris, unfortunately. So I had like 13 years of Chris. But
See, that might not be that unfortunate though, because at least then if you mess up the name or something, not
yes,
that.
their moms also had the same first name. It was
Okay, that's kind
totally
of
weird. It was totally
Yeah.
weird. But Chris was Chris was an amazing visual artist. He had gone to school to be. He was a painter and a graphic designer, and he was just amazing. And I kind of had that, like, he was so good. I started to think maybe I could try to, like, the canvases are just sitting here. There's extra paints, and so I would like futz around and then just immediately be like, no, I can't do this. Because he was so talented that it was, encouraging, but then ultimately super intimidating. But I always wanted to be able to do fine art. Like I feel like I understand, even if I'm not great at all the other forms of creative expression. I feel like I can sort of dip a toe in. Like I'm not a good dancer, but I can kind of dance if I need to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas fine art, like just being able to draw or sketch something easily, I just am so amazed and impressed and intrigued by it. It's like a whole different language to me that I can't really wrap my head around. in a way.
Yeah. Daniel is actually a pretty skilled artist,
Nice.
and his parents are both. His mom and his stepfather were our artists, fairly accomplished, and he'll send me drawings that he did on his iPad. Like there's all these applications, where there's like brushes and calligraphy pens and all these different things, and I look at that. Not the drawings he sent. I look at the actual applications, and I'm like, these are so cool. But I know if I had it, it would be like what I do when I'm at Staples trying to buy a pen, which is just writing like squiggles with different pens.
Yeah. Yep. Same.
The thing about fine art, though, is that I think it would involve needing a lot of space, and it's kind of messy.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
That's
actually very uncreative of me. It's so messy.
You want to have like the guest house that
Yeah.
you converted into an amazing studio, and
Exactly. So I need to mention something that's also wonderful and creative, which is one of our sponsors.
wonderful.
And then I'm going to come back to talk about more of everything we've been talking about.
Allison Rosen is your new best friend is supported by Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Tropical Smoothie Cafe believes you deserve a little vacay every day, not just once a year. Get on Tropic Time with bright, refreshing smoothies, tropic bowls, wraps, flatbreads. Summer mocktail smoothies are back, but you guys, they're not here forever. They're only here for a limited time. So get your buns in there and try the Island Punch, the Mango Berry Cosmo, or the Watermelon Mojito smoothie. I love the Island Punch. It's got guava, peach, passion fruit, mango, and pineapple, but they're all so good. You cannot go wrong. The acai bowl is super delicious. All of it. Go to Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
for a pineapple, mango, and watermelon soiree all summer long. Visit one of Tropical Smoothie Cafe's 1,400 plus locations or order online or through their app. Okay.
Moving on, I think it might be time to do Just Me or Everyone. Do you know what that is, Janet?
I do.
Okay, good.
I want to come up with something.
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
Okay. Molly Ayres says, I don't like revolving doors. They make me nervous. Okay, I love that you sent that in because I recently revealed that I don't like escalators. They make me nervous. And every time I say that I don't like escalators, someone, usually the guest, tells me some story about some awful accident that happened on an escalator where someone lost a limb. So evidently I'm smart to have this fear. Revolving doors, I usually encounter revolving doors at the airport when I have a lot of bags with me. And so me plus the bags and the revolving door seems like something bad could happen. So I don't love them, but I don't hate them. Mm-hmm. You?
I actually love them, but not because I think that they're great or helpful. I love making the person or people that I'm with really uncomfortable by not waiting for my own turn.
Oh, you're that person?
I like to just be in there with them and laughing about how awkward it is when you're squinched up, slowly shuffling,
Right.
trying to get through. I'm not talking about a stranger. Would never do that. But I do if I'm walking with someone. I think it's really funny if they get in and then they realize that I'm in there with them. Like, oh, was I supposed to? Is it not my turn? So that's how I whistle in the dark on the revolving door issue.
Now, okay, we have many more to get to, but you were saying on the Paul Gilmartin podcast, you were saying that you just really like people. Mm-hmm. And then I was thinking, are you one of those people who chats with strangers? Because I've been talking a lot about the fact that I always wish I was that kind of person who just could spread joy and just be like, oh, blah, 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 you know, and just like, oh, she's so wet. Look at her sweeping through here. Although maybe that's narcissistic that I wish that. But I have said that I think I should just accept that I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
And maybe I never will be.
I think, that's actually a good question, and I struggle with that sometimes because I think I'm not consistent about it. I do really like people. I've definitely been on flights where I've ended up talking to the person the whole time. It's never me starting it.
Okay.
I always assume that no one wants to talk to me. And by the way, I often really don't want to talk to anybody, so that's why I'm inconsistent. But I do feel like I can find something to talk about with anyone if I need to.
Yeah.
So I don't, I'm very private in that way. And I don't open the door right away, especially on flights. On flights, I would say I'm the most withholding of attention ever because you don't know. And it's kind of my time to sort of decompress. But I do have unnecessarily long exchanges with people, like at restaurants and when I'm, going to get my groceries, or I know all the people at my deli. I love that stuff. I love knowing what's going on with them.
I always want to be. I want to be
that
the
community
person.
feeling is important to me.
I want to be the person that has those relationships. I just don't forge them.
Yeah.
When I lived in New
It
York,
takes time. Sometimes you just have to. You see, people, if you make your routines, people start to kind of notice and. For me, I think I went to my Gelson's for a really long time without really saying anything. And then after a while, it was like, you know what? I know that this person's name is their name because they have it on their name tag, and I've always noticed it, and I know it. So now I'm just going to start saying hi, and I'm going to tell them what my name is. So it kind of grew out. It's not like I don't think I come off as a sort of cloying. I have an image in my mind of and all due respect, because actually I love Southerners, but like a peppy Southern, like Christian Chenoweth character who's like, hi, y'all, what's your name? I'm Janet. I like to do. And where are you from? I'm not that at all, but I definitely will make a conversation last longer than it needs to at the dry cleaner if I'm just like, what's going on with your day, Bob? And then he tells me, then I'll be like, no kidding. I mean, there's sort of more that needs to be there. So that, I don't know if that answers your question. Gary's laughing at my character.
Moments.
That's an amazing Christian Chenoweth
That was good.
impression. I like that.
I'll have moments of doing that, or I'll be drawn into it. I guess I'm inconsistent as well. It sort of has to do with how I'm feeling that day.
Yeah, I think
but
that's
I'll have
totally
moments
fair.
like that. But then, as I walk out of the dry cleaner, I'll be like, "Look at me! making a go of life in New York. Like in New York when that would happen. I had there were so many look at me.
It's funny.
Doing whatever.
It's funny. It's like, that there would be a camera on you or you'd be part of a show.
Yeah.
It's like you're experiencing the experience after the fact just as much for that as for the moment itself.
See, I don't have my regular grocery store in LA. I'm realizing that I don't have, because eventually in New York I did develop all those relationships. Sometimes I think about the grocery store that I used to go to in Brooklyn and I think I never said goodbye to them.
See that? Oh, you just outed yourself as a people person.
I
You
guess
outed yourself as a people person.
But
Have
I
you
didn't
thought
say
about
goodbye. Like I wonder
Yeah,
if
but no
every
one
now
would
and
think
then
about
they're
that
stocking the
unless
milk,
they were.
thinking, whatever happened to her?
Maybe.
Hope she's okay. I mean,
They're
I
probably
don't know.
looking for your face on that milk carton. missing
Yes.
in action.
So I'm realizing I don't have any of those. I don't think I have any of those relationships out here.
We're gonna
That is a
forge some
shame
for you.
Yeah.
You'll
it's like
enjoy it.
See, I can't decide whether I go to Pavilions or Gelson's. I would like to go to Trader
You should
Joe's.
come over. You should be
Okay.
coming over to my. Listen,
Let's
we
do it.
make a shopping date at our Gelson's.
Yes!
I'm going to walk you through. I'll be like, this is Judy. This is
I would like that.
Maxwell. This is
Are
Carla.
those their real
this
names?
Yes, it is. This is the assistant manager, Missy. She's here all the time.
I did have a
me.
discussion with a manager at the Gelson's one time on that really squishy mat. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I love that
Must
squishy
have been
mat.
Missy. Was it
For-
a woman?
It was a man.
Then I don't know because
For-
I don't know that guy. I don't like that guy.
okay.
No, I don't know.
He was perfectly pleasant,
Yeah.
and he accepted my frozen entree that when I got home I realized it had already been opened, and I didn't want it. So he was very cool about
There's
that.
two Dorothys. There's two different Dorothy
Dorothys.
cashiers.
Is one a dot?
No, I think they
Could
put
she be?
Dorothy.
Okay.
Yeah, neither one of them are dots. Shall we go to one of these
Yeah,
other ones? We're
let's.
hogging. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay. Ohio, 1827. Oh, speaking of groceries, so embarrassed to admit this, but if I buy eggs, I'll open up the carton first to make sure none of them are cracked. What's embarrassing about that? That's just
That's
being a
common
smart
sense.
consumer.
I do it every time. I eat a lot of eggs. I do it every time. And I would hate if I got a single egg cracked when I got home. I'd be furious.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Chris Ryan 3. My wife gets up 6 to 7 times to pee a night. And now I think that's a just me or just my wife.
I think it says JMOM, and I think it's just me or every mom.
Oh.
That's what
that should be J Moem.
I don't know.
Okay.
Just me or...
I get up numerous times to pee
I
in the
do
middle
too.
of the night.
I know I'm not supposed to drink a lot of water before bed because that'll happen, but
Yeah.
what can I say? I'm a thirsty person.
Yeah, me too. I really can't remember the last time I slept through the night without getting up.
Me neither.
Whereas my boyfriend will.
Yeah.
He will. I cannot. I mean, he wakes up in the night because I wake up 6 or 7 times to pee in the night. And yeah, but left to his own devices, he would sleep through the night. I
Yeah.
can't. I
Never.
don't think I could do that.
Never. I'm so used to doing it that I feel like sometimes I'm kind of still asleep and kind of getting like ready to get back into whatever I was dreaming about. I don't even really sometimes fully come out of the sleep.
I've kind of woken up on the toilet a few times.
Yeah, I get it.
Something got me there.
It's not just
Something
your. It's
magical.
not just your wife.
Yeah,
Chris.
it's all ladies.
It's a lot of ladies.
Gary,
No, I sleep through the night. No problem.
you do?
Yeah.
Like that's like regularly you sleep through the night.
Yes.
You
I
You don't even
definitely-
get up
no,
once.
I definitely have, a couple times a month, 2 or 3, I'll have to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, but that's an abnormality.
do you sleep through the night? Like you don't even wake up in the middle of the night?
No, I'd say probably 3 nights a week I sleep from when I fall asleep until when my alarm goes off, and then the other times I'll wake up usually once the sun's up, like something will wake me up. Somebody will walk by my apartment at like 6 in the morning and it'll wait, my apartment kind of shakes if people walk by like out. I live on the 2nd floor. So I wake up, but I don't get out of bed or anything. I just go right back to sleep.
I literally cannot remember the last time that I woke up in the morning after having closed my eyes as I went to sleep.
I can't either. And I accidentally, while I was listening, also scanned ahead, and I love all of these upcoming.
Oh, good. Well, maybe
ones.
you call
They're
one
all
out.
great. The next one, the next one I hadn't read. The next one is R.J. Johnson, L.A., and is it just me or is everyone really tired of the phrase, I tell you, but then I have to kill you?
Yeah, I'm tired of that.
I think we're all tired of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
Good-
move
good
on as a
note.
culture.
Good note.
Okay. Led Zeppelin. Answer the phone despite knowing who it is via caller ID with hello, as if I don't know. Yes, I do that too.
I like that. I
Do
guess
you?
I do too. I guess I do about half and half.
Yeah.
Sometimes if it's somebody, but you know what happens? One of the reasons I think I still do it is that, and Led Zeppelin, you tell me if this is one of the reasons that you find yourself doing it, is that often I'll answer the phone with the acknowledgement that clearly I do know who it is, and then they still identify themselves anyway. So it was
Right.
like, oh, I might as well have just answered hello.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I've literally answered like, hey, Mark, and they're like, hey, it's Mark Smith.
That
I'm like, well, I
right.
think we established that when I said,
Right.
hey, Mark.
That was the Mark you meant. That's sort of like when you have that weird conversation, two ships passing, where you say, hey, what's up? And they say, good, how are you?
Yeah.
You know, like I've had that one
Yeah.
happen a few times.
That's not what I asked. I probably answer that
Right.
poorly all the time.
I do too.
Al Vals.
Yeah.
Al_Vals. I wanted to throw this out because I love it. When I dance, I make a dance face. Does everyone do that? Or is it just me?
Oh, yes. I definitely, I make the, this is what I do when I dance face.
I think I make an apologetic. No, you know what my go-to is fake surprise. I like dancing poorly way more than I like dancing well. I like dancing intentionally poorly. So I make this face of like, whoa, what's happening
Yeah.
here? Like I'm not in control of the bottom half of my body. And it is very satisfying.
Yeah.
I'm going to go as far as to say it might be satisfying to others as well in a very unsexy
Right.
manner. And then the other thing that made me think of Al Vals is mirror faces. Because
Oh, yeah.
all the women I know have a mirror face.
I like my mirror face better than my real face.
Everyone likes their mirror face
Yeah.
better, but I'm so aware of other people's mirror faces that I'm now trying to be really conscious about not doing a mirror face. Like, look, this is what other people see when they look at me. I don't get to like change. I know that I don't look like this unless I'm doing mirror face, so I'm just trying to
What
see
is your
myself.
mirror face?
I think it's pretty similar for all women. They try to make their lips somehow more poofy, like,
Yeah.
and appealing, and it's like a sexy look. It's like a
yeah.
it's like a little bit of a cheeks out, a little bit
Yeah.
duck lips, kind of.
And for me, it's a little bit like somehow like my eyebrows move back a tiny bit.
Like you're checking yourself out.
Kind of. Well, it's also my doing a video blog or vlog face when I can see myself in the camera.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Yep.
It's my camera face because I guess just when I see myself, I just kind of automatically do it. But then when I go on auditions where I'm delivering something to a camera and there's no monitor, I'm like, God damn it, they're not. I
can't make my special face.
I can't. Yeah, I can't make my captivating captivating energetic face. What if I just have like dead eye?
Yep.
I would like to be able to do all auditions into a webcam that's like 6 inches in front of my face.
We'll get there.
Now, I feel like that might be a just me. I definitely, it might be a just me, and it's probably not relatable to anyone except maybe you. But I'm going to say it anyway because it's my show. Okay.
Yeah.
At auditions, I really would prefer to do something to a camera that's close to me than across the room. I don't know why.
Interesting. I don't know if I have a one or the other. Well, do you feel like you have to shout? Like, does it feel like you're kind of being too large because you're not?
I feel like I can. I feel like I can approximate delivering it to a person. Like it's more intimate and genuine and real if it's right in front of me.
I think that makes perfect sense.
And I think that I suspect there's a different look in my eyes when it's right in front of me.
You know
it's
what?
much more intimate than far
I'll tell
away
you.
where it's like
Yeah.
pantomime.
Here's what just happened. It was a just you. I've now taken that on. Like the next audition I go into, I'm going to be like, I really wish that camera were closer because what you said just
sorry.
made perfect sense. But I like what you said.
I'm sorry.
No, it makes sense.
Giving
I'm ready
you
to
a
take
thing
it on.
to worry about. Okay.
I'm ready to take it on.
Real quick, have either of you ever heard of a guy who knows about this mirror face phenomenon? Because that's the first
No.
I've never
Really?
heard of that.
I welcome and invite the listener to write in to us. I'm at Janet Varney. I guarantee you
Allison Rosen.
every woman will
Yeah.
be like, yep, mirror
Yep.
face.
You know,
But
and
men,
I don't doubt
I don't
it,
know.
But I've never heard of.
I don't know
something
any guys who
ever
have
before.
mirror face.
And I feel like other people's mirror faces look much more contrived than ours do to ourselves. Like my mirror face, I feel like it's just a few degrees different than my real
I
face.
think everyone thinks their mirror face is a few degrees.
And yet, I can totally think of my sister's mirror face, and it's very like
yeah,
different looking.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd be interested to see if people. Because, if everybody thinks that theirs is, like, close to their real
Yeah.
face, but everyone else knows when they're doing mirror face. I don't know.
Gary, do you have any kind of mirror behavior or reflective surface behavior? Do you give yourself a sup?
I'll smile to make sure that there's nothing in my teeth or something. I don't know. No.
Okay.
I feel like dead-faced is, what's the point of the mirror if I'm not looking just totally exactly how I'm going to look when I'm walking down the street?
I admire that.
Yeah, it's not how I am. Okay, let's see. Tad Pike says, have earbuds in so often and for so long that silent gas may not be as silent as I think. Okay, I have a friend who has a story about studying in a library in college, and he had his headphones on. He was listening to Sunny Day Real Estate, and all of a sudden he heard his own fart. And he realized that if he could hear it over Sunny Day Real Estate, he had to get out of there.
Yes.
That's how much he was in his own little world.
That's fair. I don't think it's just you. Tad Pike. I bet a lot of people. I guess I can't really speak for myself. I'm trying to think.
I feel like anytime I would notice that, it would be too late.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think that you're at the disadvantage because you have two women that are answering this question, because I think women are more preoccupied and self-conscious about gas in public places in general.
Yes.
So that whether you have earbuds or not, you're not going to fart.
Right.
You're just not going to.
Yeah.
But guys, I think maybe do it more if they think it's going to be quiet or if it's not going to smell.
They're used to sort of rolling the dice.
So I think
doing
it's
that
not just you.
math.
I think it's guys, but I can't really speak to that. That might be a Gary answer.
Gary?
Yeah, you guys are pretty much right. If you're in a... Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for Gary. Okay, so I'm the only female around these parts being the Adam Carolla offices and studios and all that. And we all have a good laugh. Whenever anyone farts or burps, then they always go, Allison. And I say, oh, excuse me. Do you guys act any differently when I'm not here?
Ooh, good question.
Not really.
Like, I'm just wondering, is it like
no.
a fart free-for-all when I'm not here? Because it's pretty farty when I am here.
I'm pretty sure it's a free-for-all when you are here. It was, back in the day, there was a girl here who Janet may know, named Katie, who
does she produce your show?
Katie Levine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Katie was here and she used to work in the engineering room, everyone was a little bit more reserved. I mean, not totally because Katie was cool, but like everyone was a little bit more reserved. But when
It's funny because I feel like I'm more girly than Katie is.
yeah.
You are, but you're in there. So like,
yeah, oh right.
what happens in here?
Interesting.
We just fucking no.
There's a smell barrier.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And I don't think anyone in there is going to go crazy, even if they are a guy, because there's mics that can pick it up and
Who's
stuff like that.
Who's the biggest offender?
It depends on whoever had for dinner that night. It really does. It rotates.
Ugh.
What a weird world.
I know.
Those boys.
Now hold on a second. Let me just make sure that we're clear here. It's not like anyone. You hear Adam talk about Jimmy specifically eating things to bring that on.
Yeah.
That's not going
apparently
down.
clams.
I know.
We're not that ridiculous.
No,
That's
I
not
know.
going down.
I don't mean that you guys are weird. I mean the weirdness of a world where women just don't do that ever, really. I don't think. I mean, I've had a lot of different kinds of female friends, and nobody's laying them out. If it happens,
If I'm
it's
with my
like there's
sister-
an apology, or there's like a I totally didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's never like she won't care if I fart.
One of my most mortifying moments during college orientation, we all went to Target because everyone does everything in a big group in college, and perhaps I was adjusting to the new cafeteria. I don't know what it was, but my friend Angie walked up to me and she went, "Boo!" and I went, and she said, "I'm never gonna sneak up on you again."
Yeah.
It's awful. Oh, another time in gymnastics in third grade, I had like a private lesson, and every somersault and every cartwheel was just punctuated with a little.
Oh yeah, that is the last situation in which you
God.
want to be gassy.
Yeah, I feel so bad for the guy who was spotting me. I
That
couldn't
must
help
happen
it
all the
though.
time.
I was a child.
One of my trainers. I don't. By the way, I have multiple trainers. I don't know why I said that. I guess I used to work out with someone, and now I kind of work out with someone different who lives a little closer. But he is anosmic, so he can't smell anything.
Ooh.
It's like the perfect.
Dawson has that.
Yeah. I never
and
knew
Mike
the word
Furman
for
has
it,
that
though.
too. Anosmic, yeah. So you could totally fart. Like there's no negative association with farting or poo or anything like that.
Yeah, according to Lynch, that's one of the reasons that it is the way it is around here, because during the radio show days, he shared an office with Dawson who had that, and he just, so as a result, there was never even a concern. So.
But he's not deaf.
That's true.
But if you don't, but
But he
think
has
about it,
headphones
it's the
on.
sound.
I know.
Yeah, it's like the sound. If the sound were the
Right.
sound without ever any
Yeah.
association of a smell,
Right,
it might
it's
never. It would. The world would be a very different place.
Right.
if
It's
we
just
didn't-
just like the sound of like a pen along a spiral notebook.
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
that's-
what's that smell? Just kidding.
Okay, let's talk about getting to the point in a relationship where you fart in front of the other person, because I've heard people say, "Oh, but I've never gotten to that point." And when I was younger and I would hear them say that, I'd think that's a shame. And yet I have actually never gotten to that point in a relationship. I mean, it's not like there's sort of a discussion of it and there's not mortification if it happens, but it's not like pushing them out.
Yeah. Yes, I have never been in a situation where I welcomed farting in myself in with someone that I was with.
Right.
It might happen if you live with someone after a while, but it was never something I was comfortable with. I never got comfortable.
Now, what do you think that means? Is that a good or bad thing?
I think it's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think if you live with someone, there are enough lines that get crossed and enough ways in which things become platonic that whatever you can hang on to that allows for a little mystery is probably not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Okay, at what point in a relationship should things start becoming a little platonic? And by that, I don't mean that you guys don't sleep together and that there's not an attraction. I just mean that like that sort of passion begins to take a backseat.
I think, well, I don't know the answer to that about not living with someone, because I associate it with like people living together. I associate it with when you move in, it's you're going to necessarily end up making those transitions without even intending to.
Yeah. It's a
'Cause you're paying
shame.
bills and
It's a shame, and yet I don't really see a way around it.
I don't know if I do either, but I do feel like you see kind of repeating in cycles in contemporary culture, people become fixated on the idea of couples who live apart for a long time, like the whole Woody Allen, Mia Farrow thing. And I
Right.
just read another article about that. There's like a new set of celebrities who keep separate homes and are, raving about how good it is for their relationship and stuff. I think there's something to it.
It just, I don't know. It seems like a lot of extra upkeep or something just to have the extra apartment. But I mean, I guess if you're actually living separately, as
Yeah.
opposed to just keeping it, but for the most part, you spend all your time together.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, my boyfriend and I live in Hollywood and he lives on the West Side. And
rough.
that part sucks.
Yeah.
So, I think we should do topic sombrero, actually.
It's the topic sombrero. We asked for topics and you sent them in. It's the topic sombrero. Now pick a topic and let's begin. It's the topic.
Janet, could you reach into that sombrero and pull out a topic?
I have been waiting my whole life to be asked that very specific question. Who knew that
It
there
would
would be a
be today.
reason for it?
I still love that song so
I do
much.
too.
So
Thank
it's
you, Trap
so
Dog.
Thank you
Good.
so much,
Trap
Trap
Dog
Dog.
contributes all the music to this show.
And he indulged my stupid idea.
I was
love
actually going to
it.
ask who did the music, so I'm glad that it got volunteered to me. I picked a topic out of the sombrero.
Okay, let's hear it.
Life after your longtime spouse has a midlife crisis and destroys everything you had together. That's dark. Life after your longtime spouse has a midlife crisis and destroys everything you had together.
Wow. Wow. My gosh, I'm trying to think if that's a topic that I can even address. That's really sad, first of all.
I'll tell you what immediately
Yeah.
is sad to me is that I don't associate the words midlife crisis with anything other than men.
Yeah.
Just not because I've had an experience with it, but just because that's what society teaches us. Society teaches us, whether it's even true or not. It's like the chicken or the egg. What
Right.
causes what?
Right.
Do men just have midlife crises because they're expecting to, because we keep getting drilled in that we
Yeah.
will? Or is it truly physiological and it is something that sort of freaks out
Right.
in a man?
Yeah.
But I never think about
No.
like a woman leaving her husband because of midlife crisis.
See, my dad, when he turned 50, we joked that he turned 50 for like 3 years. Like he went through a serious major midlife crisis of just being, I mean, being impossible to be around and really, acting out and stuff. But everything's fine now. That was years ago. But, of course, it'd be interesting to get my mom's take on that, because that was a very tough time for her.
But your parents stayed together through it?
Yeah, they did. But if there ever was going to be a time that they were going to split up, it would have been then. Like,
Yeah.
she will say that, that they came pretty close. But with some of the stuff I've been thinking about lately, like sort of thinking, I always wish that I was this chatty person who talked to strangers, but maybe I should just accept that I'm not. When I have thoughts like that, which I've been having a lot of lately, of like, maybe I should let go of this hope that I will be a certain type of person, because I am who I am. And it's like, it feels almost adolescent to be wishing I was some entirely different kind of person. I should just accept that I'm, I've put in a considerable amount of time on this earth now. Maybe this is just who I am. And then I think these feel like the kind of resigned midlife crisis thoughts that I imagine someone has when they have a midlife crisis. Because I think that's what the whole thing is. It's this acceptance of like you have to let go of what you hoped your life could be, because it is what it is.
That's so insightful, Allison. I think that makes so much sense. And I think...
Thanks.
Yeah, I do. And I think in that way, many of us are having those crises all the time after a certain point. And maybe for women, it happens in a different kind of way, either because we feel we've been given permission to ask those questions and come up with answers in a different way, or we explore our feelings more in depth. God, I don't know. And by the way, certainly on podcasts. I don't mean to. I actually feel terrible separating men and women in this way. I take it all back. Human beings, maybe certain human beings, because of the way they were raised or because of the way they are able to sort of battle those questions in a different way, and then others, it sort of hits all at once or something. But I think that makes such sense, is that question of, is this all? And even if the all that you're criticizing is what some other people would look at and say, I would give anything to have that, it's yours and it's what you're used to. Yeah. And it's suddenly about, I don't want to be used to shit anymore. I want to go to college.
Right.
I'm in high school now. I want to have the experience of going to college, but now I'm 50 or I'm 40 and I don't see that happening, and that feeling
and it's foolish to hang on, or is it foolish to hang on to it?
Yeah. And I think to go back to the original topic, that's a really, really hard thing, because it kind of becomes like, if that person couldn't keep it together to work through that shit and keep you in their life, then it's not a
sayonara.
It's just not, no matter how long you've spent with that person, how can you hold on to the idea of what used to be if they're not willing to come back around?
And especially if holding on to the idea is damaging you. So I think the thing that's hard about that question is that I am of the mind that if something's not working out, if someone's hurting you, if the net sort of the net total of the relationship is that it's more painful than positive, then take steps to walk away. However, I do think there are situations where, maybe you're married and there's kids and there's so many years behind you that if your impulse is to try to work on it or to try to forgive them, then I don't feel comfortable saying don't do that. But my instinct is, nah, let it go.
Well, yeah, and it just takes two. And I think both women and men in relationships, gay, straight, whatever, if one person really wants it to work, and they try to take up all the slack and do all the work in the relationship, and we all have to learn that that's not possible. It absolutely can't ever do, no matter how much you want it, and no matter how much work you want to put into it. If the other person isn't going to turn out any results, it's never going to be enough.
And if everything you're doing is just creating a mountain of resentment in you, be aware of that, because even if you get back together but you just resent the person, that's going to drive a wedge right back between you. And that's something that I try to be mindful I try to be mindful of, and I think everyone should be mindful in any kind of relationship, is if you're taking an action that is making you resent the person, if you're martyring yourself, don't do that, because they might not even be aware you're doing that.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, nobody wins.
Yeah.
Nobody wins. By the way, I love that we just turned ourselves into experts.
Oh,
Like,
no, we are.
so
We're totally
authentically.
expert. Once you reach into
We're
the
like,
hat,
listen,
that's what
I
happens.
got my degree in this,
Yeah,
so I
exactly.
know exactly what I need to say about it.
So you guys can send us more Topic Sombrero topics on Twitter or at our fancy new email address, ariynbf@adamcarolla.com. That's Allison Rosen's new best friend. It's not Aryan boyfriend. You can go ahead and make those jokes, but I've already heard them. And I believe some people have sent in some questions on email. Gary, how about if you read one of those?
Sure. Allison, seems like you want listener questions, so here's mine. I get a real kick out of the iTunes album artwork for the Allison Rosen is Your New Best Friend show. It's a great caricature of a very pretty lady. I was just wondering if there's some significance to the oversized sunglasses and the duckling, or if they appear strictly on a whim of the artist. Thanks, and keep up the great work. Todd in the High Desert.
Well, Todd High Desert. Yes, there is significance. And that logo that you're talking about is by an artist named Keith, quote-unquote, Kez Wilson, or he goes by Kazilla, and on Twitter he's Kazilla, Kezilla. So Allison Rosen's Your New Best Friend, in its first iteration, was a show that I did on Ustream when I lived in New York. And I would often wear oversized sunglasses because I think they're hilarious. I don't know why. I just think they're ridiculous. And so flattering for the human head. Not really, though. But I don't know. I would occasionally put them on, and everyone got a kick out of it. I'm sort of like a Carrot Top.
You're a prop comic.
A prop comic. And then the duckling, so that's where the glasses come from. And then the duckling is just because I love ducks. I actually had pet ducks growing up.
I love ducks, too.
They're so cute.
I can't believe you had pet ducks.
I did. And you know how ducks imprint?
Yes.
Yeah, ducklings imprint, so they'll follow when they're babies.
God.
They'll follow anything moving around because they think it's their mom. So if you have a duckling and you're me and you're 8, then you can walk around the house and there's a little duckling that'll follow you.
Okay, I'm
Super
losing
cute.
my mind over this business
Yeah.
with the ducks. I love ducks.
I've fallen in love all over again with adorable images. I mean, not like I ever didn't have time for a baby sloth, but now that now that I'm
hear
probably I should be shooting out kids, but I'm not. I'm just retweeting adorable
hear you.
pictures on Twitter.
I hear you, and I
get a lot of
second that emotion.
Yeah. Okay. And let's see. Yeah. And then there's a third thing in the photo which I have to mention, which is there's a pencil which is kind of bendy, and people think that that's because I'm a writer, but actually that and this will be the thing that translates the least when I explain it. But something we used to do on the show was the wavy pencil dance. I don't know how it started, but you know when you hold a pencil between your fingers and you kind of jiggle it up and down and make it look like it's rubbery? Yes.
Yeah.
Aha. No, that Gary doing it reminds me how this started. Someone on the show claimed it's best when you hold the pencil on the end, and then I was like, I thought you hold it in the middle.
I always
Held
held
it
it
on the
on
end?
the end.
I always
me
held it
too.
on the middle. In the middle. That's how I do it on the show. It doesn't work nearly as well when you
No.
hold it in the middle.
No, the end's
but
way
somehow the guests and I
that's
started
great.
holding up pencils and doing that while I played this little song on this fake cell phone toy I had that made this like chirping like and then because Ustream is interactive, people at home would get all excited by that. So then it turned into this thing that we had to do for every show. And then some of my favorite ridiculous, insane moments were I'd have like 5 people in my apartment and we'd do it and then I'd be like, just the boys, and then I'd duck down under my desk and I'd be like, Dustin, take a solo, and then he'd twist around. It was very insane, but it became a thing.
Am I doing it?
You're doing it.
That's fantastic.
You're holding the tip and you're doing it. So anyway, so that's what all those things are. And in the theme song to this show, you can hear Trap Dog say, doing the wavy pencil dance again. I know that some people have asked, what does that mean? And there's a line in that. It's that.
Secret reveal.
Yeah. So now you know. I feel like I'm my own Allison Rosen is Your New Best Friend wiki.
Yeah, you just did a biography
I know.
of it.
There it
It's
is.
good.
I know. This might be too much. I've
It's
shared
so
too much.
Adorable. God, the duckling story.
iTunes comment of the week time.
Satisfying.
Allison Rosen brings you the best iTunes comments of the week.
Now that song is by his name Ross Berman. A listener sent that in to us, so he should get his
I
own
love
shout
it.
out as well.
All right, and he will. I just don't have it right here in front of me.
Okay. I think
Sorry
it's
about
it's
that.
Ross Bergman, I think.
I think it is Ross Bergman.
Okay.
If we got that wrong, please send me an email, and I'm very sorry. We'll correct it next week. This week's iTunes comment of the week is from Sari Flanagan. It says, I love Allison, and she is a wonderful talent on the Adam Carolla podcast. Yay! She is smart, funny, and has a great take on the world. Listen! Exclamation point. So thank you, Sari.
Thank you. Wait, so she just complimented me. I'm not that I'm not grateful, but she just complimented me on my performance on the other podcast?
Well, it's a comment on your show, so I think it's an addendum. It's as well as being great on the Adam Carolla podcast. She's awesome here. Listen to this.
Right. Okay, that works for me.
Producer Gary's going to get better at this. This is only his second episode, and he's a little sick.
That's right. It's okay. I've made Gary read these because I feel like when I blow smoke up my own ass,
Yes, I totally
then it feels
get it.
funny.
I totally get it. That's great. I wish I had someone that I could do stuff like that. I could have them do that.
Gary's going to be out of a job soon.
Clearly. But you may mean that he's going to die from whatever illness he has.
No,
so
from
it's
Coachella
possible.
fever, I don't mean that. Okay, one more thing I want to tell you guys is that if you're going to be going to Amazon to purchase something, which you are anyway, because everyone uses Amazon, it's awesome. I just today bought some Truvia, one of my favorite artificial sweeteners, on Amazon.
Same.
So if you're going to go to Amazon and you want to support the show, click through the banner on my website, AllisonRosen.com, and then that sends a few buckaroonies or cents our way, and then that helps make everything run smoothly, and we can buy Gary Benadryl. Mm-hmm. And Janet, thank you so much for coming by.
It was so much fun, Allison.
Plug everything of yours.
Oh, well, you know what? I won't. I will just say that you should. I would love for people to come over and check out my podcast because I do think if you like Allison's show, you'll probably like mine. And but don't stop listening to Allison's show. Yeah. Listen to
both of us, and they can get that on iTunes.
You can get it on iTunes or on the Nerdist Network. So if you should go to nerdist.com. nerdist.com and click on podcasts, you'll see mine. It's a green logo with a smiley face that has braces. The JV Club, and
on Twitter they can get to you at
Twitter,
Janet Varney.
Just at Janet Varney.
And do you have janetvarney.com?
I do.
Okay, great.
I do.
And for me, AllisonRosen.com, you can get this podcast on iTunes. Please leave comments, and then Gary will read them, and then I'll take issue with his choice and just make him feel generally kind of bad, which is not very nice of me, I don't think. And also, please rate it highly if you think it deserves a high rating, and if not, rethink that thought. And you can follow me on Twitter at Allison Rosen. You can follow the show's Twitter feed at ARIYNBF. There's a Facebook page for the show. There's a Facebook page for me. You can email the show, ariynbf@adamcarolla.com. And I want to thank everyone and thank you guys for just being awesome listeners. Tell your friends about the show. Thank you, Trap Dog, for the music. Thank you, Kazilla, for the logo. Thank you, Gary, for being Gary, and Janet for being here. And, God, am I forgetting anything? I don't think I am. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen Show? We had a good time, but now we gotta go. Yeah, Allison Rosen is your new best friend.